can give you some hints and some insight how to improve and how to aim for those specific journals. Thank you, Bridget, for your invitation. Let me share a quick presentation with you. My colleagues has already touched some very interesting point, which I don't want to go over again, and I think are very, very clear, and I agree with all of them. I'm managing editor of Journal of Intellectual Capital. I'm editorial board of Journal of Knowledge Management, Management Decision, and Journal of Entrepreneurship. My role is very different in all of those journals, but in my experience, mostly in Journal of Intellectual Capital, I can give you some hints and some insight how to improve and how to aim for those specific journals. Actually, I was smiling when some of you asking for artificial intelligence, and this image actually comes from artificial intelligence. And this is the way that I use artificial intelligence, because honestly, so let's remember that we are human. So when we do research, we don't need to be replaced by artificial intelligence. But actually, we need to use our human skills, our idea, our creativity, our research creativity to put in place some new project. And this is which I am passionate about. And honestly, I don't want to be replaced by artificial intelligence, which gets me bored and annoyed how to write paper. So publish or perish, which I think is always being a question about that, is always a matter, a big concern that really stress about. So we have to aim to very high ranking journal. If we look at the ABS list, actually academic journal guide, so we aim for 3 and 4 star or 4-star plus, or we go for the Financial Times journal, or if you are look at the American side, we look at for the A journal, or actually if you are look at the Italian side, we look at for A journal too. So this is takes us for a high, very competitive environment, and also a very stressful environment, because at some point we just look at what is the ranking of this journal. I need to go there, but what is the passion about the topic that we are writing about? So how much we like that topic, how much is interesting that topic. So think about this. Some of you has built up a topic, actually research for here, and you need to show that you really like that topic. But sometimes, do you know what we fail? I think in something very superficial. Let me use this word, and sometimes it's very stupid. I have highlighted these 3 aspects, which is journal scope, journal guideline, and contribution, original contribution referring past and recent research. So the first one is fact. How my article or my research fed the journal scope. So what I have to do, first of all, go to the journal, read the aims and the scope of the journal. Why I am asking you, I'm telling you that, because in my experience, some people, they don't read that, they just try. And this is in some ways funny, but it's also sad that you don't know how to submit your research, that you just try to submit your research, because I think it's very relevant to read aims and scope. I heard before some question about, can I publish in your journal something about entrepreneurial education? And I think if you go to the aims and scope of that journal, you will not find that. So just for that, it's very relevant. Also, you save time as, because we need to go through the article, we need to read your article, and just to say, okay, so it is interesting, we can pass on to the associate editor, or otherwise we just need to desk reject it. But if you know that your article has no chance for that journal, don't waste your time, and don't waste our time. When I started my PhD, my supervisor told me, do you know, Veronica, the first thing that you need to do, look at the journal guidelines. So the reference style, the abstract, and the other aspect. Because if you are really interested in that journal, you should know what are the journal guidelines, and your article should reflect on that. And I was, that's right. Otherwise, you should just say behavior, a lazy behavior, which actually you haven't looked at that. Yes, I am partially interested in your journal, but basically, I don't know anything about your journal. And in my case, showed that you are not interested in my journal. So when you are really interested in that topic and you really want to publish in that topic, you have to read the author guidelines. Again, save your time, don't waste your time, save my time, don't waste my time. Original contribution and past recent research. Yes, I think before Professor Amon was just saying about research gap, and I agree with him. But at the same time, if you're interested in that journal, I mean, at least you should read some articles published in that journal. If you want to show how to contain the argument, the discussion, that journal, at least you should read some article on that journal. At least you should know if that journal goes for empirical articles, for conceptual articles, or for qualitative articles, quantitative articles. This is all those parts are very relevant, and you just read recent article, past article, just also to show how your article fed. You go back to my first insight with that journal. I want also to show with you, there is a call for paper. And let me add another thing to the previous question, what you were asking for. Is it okay if a guest editor act as a reviewer? Yeah, there is in some way we can say yes or we can say no, depends how much effort is trying to get reviewers. Guys, getting reviewers is not an easy thing. So we are author, but at the same point, actually, in the same time, we are also reviewers. How many times have you rejected an invitation as a reviewer? Thousands of times. And same time, guest editor, but as well as editors, as well as managing editors or associate editors, are struggling to get good reviewers. Actually, now good reviewers are so precious because they spend so much time in making it very good reviewers and helping out us in improving our papers. But there is also a big group of reviewers which they just don't copy and paste. They review. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. And as Amon said, as an associate editor, I need to go back to those reviews and I need to be sure that this makes sense. So going back to the guest editor question, yes, sometimes I think he has no act as a reviewer if he has a chance to add new reviewers. But if you're really struggling to get reviewers, what he can do or what she can do. So this is, is more effort for him or for her to do a good job. But we as editor or with managing editor, we asking the guest editor to do a good job, because the last decision, for example, in Journal of Intellectual Capital, goes to the editor-in-chief. So it's not the guest editor that makes the last decision. In our case, it's the editor-in-chief. If the guest editor doesn't want to diminish his reputation or her reputation, he has to do a good job. Here, there are two call for paper. If you're interested in that, please just submit. relevant question that I want to go quickly through with them, which is research questions. So what are the most relevant and promising research questions which add another thing to your paper, the storytelling of your paper. So how you are telling us, discussing us, and narrating your research is so much relevant. Let's get in love with your research. So theory and concept. It's quite strange that sometimes I get people confused between theoretical framework and theoretical background, which is something very relevant. So it is something that we need to focus on. So research design and methodology, don't be lazy on that. You need to show every single part of that. I like to say that we need to feel like a baby. When a baby starts to say anytime, why? So we need to ask that. So we need to feel that when you are writing this part, we need to say, okay, why this methodology, why this sample, why this much of people, we need to justify everything. Above this discussion, how we can connect different topics, how we can connect our theoretical, managerial, and also actually now policymaker contribution. And also connection with other categories, because we also like to talk about the multidisciplinary aspect. So we don't want to stay close in our group, in our discipline, but we want to create connection with other disciplines too. This is what we should do that. So if you think the journals, if you go to the associate editors, each associate editor has got a topic, which topic can be linked to each other, but they also have got their own topic, which is own expertise. And this is very relevant because when I'm going to submit a paper, I want also that associate editor look into my paper because he's an expert in that topic, but also has got the flavor to discuss that topic with the different backgrounds, with the different categories and the disciplines. It is also what the journal does. So we tend to say our focuses are this, but they tend to also to embrace different categories and different domains. So this is very, quick in what is my main presentation, and I have just left 5 minutes for question. And if you have any question for me, these are the journals, and each journals has got some connection, which is the managerial aspect. But it's also an important aspect which connects all of those is the intangible asset that comes to the intellectual capital, to the knowledge management, the management decision, and also the entrepreneurship. So, Bridge, this is my quick and short presentation.
Veronica, I enjoyed your presentation. It was very spot on. I think the issue I raised about guest editors serving as reviewers, I think you hit the nail on the head. Reviewing for reputable journals is a voluntary exercise. They don't get paid. Yeah. It's difficult to get reviewers, and that's what brings about the backlog in papers and authors waiting for decisions, even up to a full year. So as long as the guest editors or special issues declare no conflict of interest, my personal position on that is that they can quite comfortably serve as reviewers for their own special issues. And that's a very important point you raised there. I'm also glad to note that you're involved in management decision, which I'm involved with, and a couple of other journals. And some of the key things there, when you talked about research gaps, I made a comment in the charts. Somebody asked the question, I think it was Dr. Adhering, that mentioned something about research gaps and all those sort of things. What I tend to do when I'm targeting a particular journal is I'll look at previous work that's been published in that journal and look at what their research limitations are and their suggestions for future research. Journals are supposed to publish articles that build upon previous publications in that journal. So you pick up from those research limitations and what the authors of published articles wish they would have been able to do. You pick it up from there and build on that. That's what knowledge is about from my own perspective. Bridget, that's all I have to say, really.